Okay, this is meant to be part 2, but this actually talks about a different subject. So what I recommend is if you're just watching this video first, go back and watch the video that I posted for, what did I name it? ePUB page breaks. Okay, so we're going to restart that. I'm actually going to delete out all the ePUBs that I created there. And of course, I got to close everything down. Let's close. Why? All right, so there we go. All right, so we're going to go back into this dummy file that I created. And I'm going to remove that split document ePUB only. All right. So in this video, we are going to talk about Endnotes and InDesign. InDesign did not add the Endnote feature. It had been a request for years and years and years and years to add Endnotes to InDesign. Well, they finally did it. It works great for print books. However, for ebooks, there is a quirk. And I know they know about it because I've actually posted on the forum, you know, please fix this bug. I don't know if it's technically a bug. It just doesn't work properly. So when you create an ePUB the way I recommend, where you go into your styles and tell it to split pages based on that style, it breaks the links to the endnotes because it does not put in the XHTML file on the link to the endnote. All right, so if this is way over your head, hopefully we'll come full circle and that will kind of start making sense because I'm going to show you how InDesign works with Endnotes. So with our dummy document, what we're going to do, we're just going to do a couple of things. We are actually going to add a couple of footnotes and endnotes. So I'm just going to insert a footnote. I'm not going to style anything. This is for practical purposes only. We are not, you know, we're not going to do that. All right, so we added a footnote. And why? You may say, well, why would you have endnotes and footnotes in a document? Believe it or not, I've had it multiple times with multiple clients. I personally, if I was writing a nonfiction book, it would be one or the other. But there might be some complicated reason why endnotes, with them being at the back of the book or the back of the chapter, it allows you to have longer endnotes. You may have like a whole page of an endnote, but you may have small little things that you want to keep as footnotes. So that's, you know, if I was doing a nonfiction book, I would make them all endnotes. But, you know, that's another whole other thing. All right, so we've got a footnote here. We're going to add an endnote here. So type, insert endnote, and again, this is just garbage. So I'm going to put a few in each chapter. I'm not going to do any more footnotes, but we are going to do a couple of more endnotes. I'm going to put 2 or 3 in each chapter after chapter 2. So we're going to insert endnote. And then we're going to go back to chapter 2. So here's that number 2 endnote. And in a perfect world, I would be doing this right. I would actually go into my type settings, document endnote options. I would be setting paragraph styles and character styles for the endnotes. But for this purpose, I'm not going to worry about doing that. I just want to show you what InDesign does when it comes to endnotes and ebooks. All right, so we're going to insert number 3, and then we're going to go back and do, let's go ahead and do one more for chapter 2. And let's see, insert, endnote, EndNote. Now, if you are bringing in a document from Word, it'll bring in the EndNotes as long as you select it in that document export option, import options. So your EndNotes will come through. If EndNotes were done properly in Word, which isn't always the case. So you just need to make sure the EndNotes are done properly for them to come through in InDesign. All right, so we're going to do another EndNote in Chapter 3. Insert EndNote. I think we're good. I think we're good. This will be fine. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to export. All right, so remember in the previous video we went through and broke the document up by setting a split document on the chapter title. I removed that because I want you to understand what's happening here. All right, so we're going to export it, and now it's going to export. I'm not going to tell it to split document. It's going to export as one long ebook. So we'll open up Digital Editions, and here's our ebook file. And here is our footnote. Or was that the EndNote? All right, so that was a footnote, and you will see it here. So I exported this as an ePUB 2.0. Footnotes in ePUB 2.0 come at the end of the chapter. So here it is at the end of the chapter, and here are the EndNotes. So that can get a little confusing if we have both EndNotes and footnotes. All right. The way footnotes and EndNotes should work in an ePUB is that we create backlinks. All right. So here is that one footnote, takes us to the one footnote here, and then if we click on the number 1, it takes us back to the page where the 1 was at. All right. So those are backlinks. All right. Hope everybody understands that. I keep waiting for somebody to say, yeah, I understand it. All right, so here is our first EndNote. So we have one here and one here. That's why I wouldn't do, if you do have to do EndNotes and footnotes, your footnotes should be asterisks and your EndNotes should be numbers. All right, so here is our first EndNote. We're going to click on that. It's going to take us to that back page, and here's EndNote 1. I'm going to click on it. It's going to backlink to the page where footnote 1 was. All right, so let's go to chapter 2 where I put in more. Here's the second EndNote. Takes us to number 2. We click on the number for number 2, and it takes us back to that page. So properly designed ebooks should have links to the footnote and or EndNote, and then links back to where the footnote and or EndNote is located within the text. When InDesign first added EndNotes, it did not do any links on the EndNotes, or it did not, I can't exactly remember, but when they first added EndNotes, well, let's take that back. Before InDesign added EndNotes to InDesign, we had to dummy EndNotes, okay? And there's a couple of scripts that you could convert your footnotes into kind of a weird working EndNotes. And there was a lot of scripts out there to help assist you to create EndNotes in InDesign. But then InDesign added this great EndNote feature, and it actually works really good except for ePUBs when you export. The reason why, if you have EndNotes and footnotes, you need to have them linked and then backlinked is because, well, that's good book design. And 2, Amazon, KDP, is known to pull books out of the store if the EndNotes are not backlinked, meaning that you can have your link to your EndNote in the back, but then it needs to be backlinked to where it is in the text. I've had a couple of clients that I did ebooks for many years ago before we even started worrying about making sure they were linked. Because it is a tedious process if you have a lot of endnotes. I did a book one time that had over 700 endnotes, and it also had footnotes, and the ebook was a nightmare. And this was before InDesign added the EndNote feature. So what happens is, I guess, Amazon's AI runs through the book files and finds that EndNotes are not backlinked, and they will send a note to the author saying you have so many days to correct this book, otherwise we'll remove it because the links, the backlinks are not there. So I've actually had clients come to me and say they're going to pull my ebook. What's wrong with it? So we have to go through the process of adding those backlinks back in. All right. So that's why we do the links and the backlinks, because one, it's good book design, and two, the retailer, specifically Amazon, may pull that document if it's not done properly. All right. Even if it doesn't have links at all. I had this one book that we just didn't even link the footnotes and the endnotes in the ebook, and they still wanted to pull it. So you have to go through it and add those for purposes of Amazon. Now, they may not do that to every single one, but, just forewarning. All right, so, this works great. 2, 2, 4, 4. This is how it should work. But what if we had all of these pages? All right, let me back up. Right now, because I didn't tell it to split the document anywhere, it's one long consecutive XHTML file. All right, so let's go in and edit the export tagging. We're going to tell it to split document for our chapter title. And if you have done a book document, this is basically how it's going to work. It's going to now create individual XHTML pages for each chapter. So we're going to say export. And again, this is just our dummy. Click on OK. I made one mistake. Let's delete this. Cancel. Export. All right, we're going to tell it to split document based on paragraph style exports because we added that split document under chapter title. Click on OK. All right, so same thing. Now it's just split. Let's click on, this was the footnote. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's the endnote. This was the footnote, so it takes us there. Here is the endnote. What's happening? I'm clicking it. Can you hear me clicking it? It's not taking me to the endnote. Let's go, well, maybe it's just chapter 1. Here it is again. It's not taking me to the endnote. So why the difference? It's the same document. All right, the only thing we did different is we told it to split the document based on chapter title. Based on our chapter titles. All right. So we're going to do two things here. We're going to export. Hold on just a second. Export. Sorry, I'm thinking as I go to how I can properly walk you through this to make it to make sure you understand it. Chapter title split. We're just going to call the ePUB chapter title split. Split document, split by chapter title. We're good. Click on OK. We're going to close this for now. We know this is the one that the endnotes do not link. We're going to go into chapter title. We're going to remove our split document, and then we're going to export. And we're going to say no split. And we're going to name it. We're going to tell it not to split the document, and then we go. All right, So now we have two ebooks. We have our chapter title split, ePUB, and then the no split. So what we're going to do is we're going to say no split epub.zip, and then we are going to say chapter title split.zip. Why did that just happen? I didn't mean to do whatever I just did. Okay, copy. I know what I did. I had everything selected. All right, chapter title split.zip. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to extract the ePUB, both ePUBs, and we're going to take a look at them. All right, so here is our no split ePUB. And then we are going to open up the other one. Chapter title split. All right, so same basic InDesign document. The only difference is how we told it to split the pages. This is how the one looks when we told it to split the pages. Each chapter is its own page. So this is chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. And then we know in this one, this comes through as one long XHTML file. So let's go in and look at the code. Let me view split. I want it split vertically. All right. So let's go in and view the code. Here is our footnote. So if we look at the code, it is saying our links in HTML are these these means these are links. All right. So with an A tag, I'm going to go ahead and this is the CSS that it's bringing in for the look of it. I'm just going to delete that out just so we don't have to look at that. A couple of things to note. I'm going to clean this up real quick so we don't have all this garbage. No break. All right, so we've got a span class here. This span class is important. You never want to delete anything with an ID when you're using footnotes. You need this footnote because this is basically an anchor that's telling the identification number of this particular area within the ebook is called this footnote 000 backlink, okay? And then we have the actual link, so is between these A tags. So an A tag is a link, hyperlink within an ebook or with HTML. And then our number 1 is set between that hyperlink. So that number 1 is what's going to come through as the link. All right. Hope that makes sense. So what it's telling us is that this area right here, its name is this footnote 000 backlink. And then the actual link, when we click on number 1, is going to take us to the untitled1.xhtml page, which is what this page is. And it's going to take us to the anchor footnote 000. All right, so remember that. We're going to scroll through to the very end where it has footnotes and endnotes, and we're going to look at, I'm going to clean this up just so all this garbage we do not need. All right, so here we go. First, let's look at the ID for this block of text. Footnote 000. All right, so it's naming itself here. It's footnote 000, and if we remember, the code in the reference, the hyperlink reference in the A tag for number 1 earlier, it referenced the Untitled 1 XHTML page with a £, which is an anchor, and it said footnote 000. So that is how it works. You have an anchor, which is your ID, and so the code is telling it to find this anchor. All right, now the way it works back, it works the same way. We can take off this class because that just kind of bogs it down. When we click on this one here, it takes us back to that footnote 000 backlink, which we know was up above. All right, so everybody understand that concept, hopefully. Same thing goes with the EndNote. The naming structure is basically the same thing. So ID, EndNote 001, this is EndNote 001. And when we click on the number 1 here, there is no file name for some reason, so it's missing this untitled1.xhtml, but it has the anchor backlink to EndNote 001 backlink, which if we go to chapter 2, we will know all right, here's O2 endlink, EndNote. I'm sorry, we should have went to chapter 1, which is this EndNote. If we look at the ID for it, it is that 001 backlink. So it works back and forth. Now, which one did we open up? Now I can't even remember what we opened up. So we're in Untitled 1 XHTML. So all of these work. We know that this one works. Okay? So we don't need to do anything to this document. So why doesn't these work? So let's open it up. Hold on just a second. View, split. Oh, I hate when it does this. Don't ever update because everything changes. We want to split vertically. Okay. So let's see. Here's our one. We know the footnote worked. Why did the footnote work? Because it's in the same, on the same page. It's at the end of chapter 1. Here's our footnote. So where are our endnotes? Let's bring up that. Our endnotes, where are they? They're like, oh, here they are. Okay, so here they are. They're all at the end of 4. Okay, now, I'm going to blow your mind here, not really. Let's open up. Did I put in, I don't think I put in EndNote. All right. This is one of those things that I understand it in my mind, and again, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this to you. So, if I had added an EndNote in chapter 4, that EndNote would have worked properly. Why? Because all the EndNotes are here in the same document for chapter 4. All right, so we have EndNote 5, EndNote 4, EndNote 3, EndNote 2, and EndNote 1. The reason why the endnotes are not working is because if we look at the H reference for these endnotes, there is no reference to a file name. So it's looking for this EndNote 005 backlink only in this chapter 4 file. But we know that this EndNote 05 backlink, I believe, is in Chapter 3 or Chapter 2. So to get these to work, we have to add the file name here. InDesign is missing that file. So call it a bug, call it a quirk, call it they haven't figured out how to fix it yet. I don't know. So if you have these situations, you have to add in the file name, which is a lot of work. So we know that here is EndNote 1. We know that EndNote 1 is in this Untitled -1 -XHTML. All right, we know that EndNote 1 is here, and we know that EndNote 1 is called, where do we see have the ID? Right here. All right, and we know that when we tested this, when we clicked on 1, it didn't take us anywhere. Why is that? Because it's looking for the name EndNote 1001 in this Chapter 1 file. Well, we know it's not in Chapter 1. It's in Chapter 4 at the very end, which is Untitled 1.4xhtml. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add Untitled 1-4xhtml. Why did you do that? 1-4.xhtml. When I clicked on this, for some reason it got rid of the anchor. We don't want that. So now this link is going to work. All right, so we're going to go to Untitled 1-4, and we know that EndNote 1 is in the Untitled 1-1.xhtml. All right, so now I'm not going to correct the other ones yet, because I'm going to show you now that these work because we added that in. We're going to create, and I don't use Econ Crusher, but you can definitely use Econ Crusher to do this part as well. When you're like me and you've been doing things a certain way, you don't like the things. All right, so here we go. So let's open up this new modified ePUB. We know that the footnote, which was this one, works, and the EndNote did not work, but now it does. It's because we added the file names in. So to fix these issues when it comes to EndNotes, we need to add in the file names for not only the link, the actual EndNote, but the backlink for the EndNote as well. It's a manual process. It can be done with a series of grep searches. If you have an ebook that has a lot of EndNotes, it's going to take some time. But what you have to do is, well, what I typically do in these situations is I write down the numbers for my EndNotes, how many numbers I have, and I write down the file name for each chapter and write down what EndNotes are in what chapter. Okay. Now, all right, let's try to explain this in a way that makes sense, because I know that probably didn't make sense. The good thing about all of the links, let me find it, all of these right here, Oh, I'm in the CSS, I'm sorry. Here is the EndNote. The good thing is if you do a search, and this is why I clean out all those things that don't need to be in there. If you were to do a search for all right, let's go back to how it was. So we know it was without this right here. Okay. H reference, I'm just making sure everything is done right. Oh, we need to add in our quotation. All right, so this is how it was before. The links within the chapters, and I'm not talking about the endnotes at the back, but the links within the chapters is an easy fix, okay? Because all of the backlinks are going to be in this untitled one for XHTML. All right, so we know that all these endnotes, here's EndNote 02, EndNote 03, EndNote 04, and EndNote 05. We all know that they're all located in this one for XHTML file. So we can do this, add our little grep code and make sure our regular expressions is checked. So it will find that 01, 02, 03, 04. So if you have a lot of these, this is the easiest way to fix it. And we want it to, so we're searching for all of these, and we want it to replace it with this. So we're adding in that reference to that file name, that untitled 1-4, and we want it to keep the EndNote number that we found here using this regular expression. So what this $1 is, it's going to put in here whatever was here. I hope that makes sense. So if it said 001 here, it's going to put 001 here. If it said 002 here, it's going to put 002 here. So we can search across our entire folder. And it should find 4 instances, hopefully 4 or 5. I can't. We had 5. We already corrected 1, so we'll see. It should find 4 or 5. So we'll see what it actually does. We're going to do a replace all, and it found more because it also changed our backlink in this document. All right, so it changed in the 1.4. It added, let's go down to the bottom. It added that untitled 1-4 that we told it to. But we know that this isn't right. We know that EndNote 5 is not in this 1-4 document. Let's see where I actually put it. Where is EndNote 3? EndNote. All right, so we know EndNote 5 is in Chapter 3, and we know all the other EndNotes except EndNote 1 is in Chapter 2. So now what we need to do, EndNote 5 is in 3. We need to go in and just change that number to the right file. We know that EndNote 4 is in 2. We know that EndNote 3 is in 2. We know that EndNote 2 is in 2. And then we know EndNote 1 is in 1. So let's go back in. And now that we made all those adjustments, let's go back in and repackage the ePUB. Oops, I have it open. Repackage the ePUB. And yeah, like I said, you can use eCanCrusher to do this. I'm just an old dog, can't teach me new tricks. So we have to do it without eCanCrusher, just right click on the MIME type file, send to compressed zip folder. If you're on a PC, if you're on the Mac, I think you have to use eCanCrusher. We are going to drag the folders one at a time and in order. So we need to drop the meta INF folder into that MIME type file and drop the OEBPS into that MIME type zip file. And then we can rename it, and then we can open it up and cross our fingers. Now our links should work. All right, so we know this one works because this is our footnote. So here is our EndNote. It took us to the EndNote, and it took us back to where it's at in the ebook. Here is number 2. Number 2 took us there. Number 2 took us back. Here is 3. 3 is now correct. 4 is now correct. And where are you at? 5 is now correct. So that is how you correct them. It's not easy if you have a lot of endnotes. It does take some time, but use that grep search so you can at least add in most of the proper link in, and then on that page that has all the endnotes together, you just need to go through and update the right file number. So I hope that helps if you ever do these types of ebooks and you have to add in endnotes. Every time InDesign comes out with a new update, I always cross my fingers and say, hey, I hope they fix the EndNote problem. But it has yet to happen, and they just came out with 2021, and this is actually the first time I have tried it out of 2021, and we can see it is still not working. So one day we hope that InDesign will do it properly so we don't have to do all this extra work in terms with EndNotes. Now, if you didn't care, if you didn't set your ebook up as, or set your InDesign document up as a book document, or you do not split it into multiple pages based on the chapter titles or whatever you use, it will work because everything is one long file. So all of the anchors look for each other, look for the anchor within that page. But when we split it, InDesign misses adding the page reference to the EndNote. I hope that makes sense. Maybe one day I'll be able to put it together more eloquently. But if you do have issues with it and need help correcting it, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Especially if you have a lot of endnotes, there are certain things that you can, more additional grep searches that you can run. They're just a little bit complicated, and it's just one of those things that it's really kind of hard to put out what's in my head out there. But hopefully this will give you a nice overview to what the issue is and how you can correct it. Now, if you have a lot of endnotes and do not care that your ePUB is in one long HTML file, do not delete those page breaks that are in the CSS like I always tell you to do, and do not split your document. okay? Then you don't have to correct them. They work. But if you already have your uh, book set up in a book document, unfortunately, there's no way to tell it not to do it. So I hope that helps. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You know, I'm just a big InDesign nerd.